Hey everybody. I come out here to set my greenhouse for a little bit this morning, and it's raining. You might can hear it. I built this greenhouse a couple of years ago, and it's kind of like my sanctuary. Come out here, I got a fireplace in it. A lot of my plants. I love to garden. But since I have this following on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram or whatever, a lot of the people, it's kind of a emergence of politics and religion. I'm fascinated by both. I love both. And, um, some of you that follow me know that I was a big supporter for the Harris campaign here in Georgia. And also, I mix in, even with the campaign, my love of Christ. But at the same time, how I no longer identify as Christian. And, coming from being raised up in a Pentecostal holiness family in Cabbagetown and giving my life to the Lord when I was a teenager and pastoring a church for about 17 years at one time in my 20s and 30s, and how I kind of let all that go, and I'm just been in a transition with that ever since then. So I want to. I have a video on TikTok also about why I no longer identify as a Christian that goes into great detail about some of the what goes into thinking of that. Um, yeah. Um, but I get questions. It's kind of odd when you're on TikTok and have a following and all. I do get a lot of questions from people about their spirituality and about their Christianity, about their walk with the Lord, about their leaving the church. I noticed also uh, over the last 10 years or so, a lot of people, especially gay people, seem bitter and they seem angry at traditional church, whatever that entails. And I think what I've come to understand with some of that is they're really bitter at how the church, the traditional church as we know it, can so embrace someone like a Donald Trump, who you could check off all the list of the most ungodly and unholy things about a person, and he'd be like, ta-da, and here I am. And I think a lot of gay and lesbian trans people are just really bitter and angry about how could the church accept him and even welcome and love him, but yet put us out of the church. And I know some of you religious people out there say, we ain't never put nobody out of the church, but you know what I mean. You have. So anyhow, I have a couple of questions here from followers, and I'm not going to use no names or whatever. But one this morning says, love following you and your wisdom. I do have a question, not out of judgment in any way, but out of curiosity slash ignorance, maybe. Since you no longer identify as Christian, are you still a believer in Christ? Honestly, I thought the two go hand in hand, but I see you as what I think Christians are: love and kindness. I totally get not going along with what we have been overran with, the type Christians, and not identifying with that crowd anymore. But just wanted to ask. I love your thoughts and views and insight. I don't know if y'all going to be able to even hear me with this rain going on out here. So my answer to this person was, I texted her back, I totally believe in Christ. He is my ride or die partner in life. And the principles of Christ. I believe the thing about it is, even if I didn't believe in Jesus, even if I didn't believe in the principles of Christ, the principles of Christ are just decency. To love your neighbor, to be kind to one another, to treat people with respect. So you can believe in the principles of Christ and not be a Christian. Basically, the principles of Christ, just be decent human beings to one another and care about one another. Even so, you go all through it. The Bible said, if you see your brother cold and without a coat, if you got two, give your brother one of your coats, And Boom Boom's trying to get in out of the rain. Let me let the dogs in. Another question this morning was, or yesterday, was from a person. I am a 44-year-old lesbian who was raised in Rome, Georgia, and was in church every time the doors were open, from birth to 22 years old. As I got older, I started to open my eyes to other points of view and beliefs. I struggle because I'm not sure exactly what I believe these days. I know I hate religion and don't have any desire to ever go to church again. But I'm sad most because I find myself not sure if I believe any of it anymore. I've been following you for a while now, and I've been trying to understand your beliefs that you have today. Are you willing to explain your beliefs today compared to the past when you were a preacher? Hope you have a wonderful Sunday. All right, so let me explain it from the past to today. And I noticed that word she used where she says, I hate church, the whole church thing. What did y'all people do to people back then and now that just made them just disgusted at church? And I don't want to drift this over into politics, but there's thousands of people, if you go look on my TikTok on one thread, of Trumpers who claim to love Jesus, but are on there spewing the most vile, visceral hatred toward other people, calling them rats and unclean and perverted and devils and just that's the part of Christianity. Maybe that part was always there. Now I'm going to tell you, when I was a pastor of a church, I tried to love people. Whatever I do, I just like try to love people. No different if I'm not a Christian. I just try. If I see somebody changing a tire at a Walmart, I won't stop and say, "Yeah, I want to love that person." I'm gonna say, "Do you need a jack or something?" You don't have to be a Christian to do that. So anyhow, what's different about today than I was uh, years ago? Very little of traditional teachings of Christianity do I believe in. And it's not that I have this great knowledge or read these fancy books or listened to people like Wayne Dyer, Dr. Wayne Dyer, or Maya Angelou, or people that had great insights in other lives. I think where I'm at is I trust my soul, my spirit. So somewhere about 20 years ago, when I came to this realization that there is no lake of fire, there is no hell, nobody is ever going to a place of torment, nobody is ever going to go into that place called hell, the foundations of that kind of teaching begin to crumble because you needed that fear and needed that teaching to make people afraid to walk away from it. And I've often said this about people. I've had other people who still in that mindset ask me, said, Eddie, but what if there is a hell? What if you're wrong and there is a hell? And I can honestly answer this question this way. I would choose to go to hell over going to heaven and being with the God that created that hell to put his creation, billions of people in that lake of fire. I don't want no part of that God. I would choose hell over that doctrine, over that place of heaven. And so in our spirituality, where am I at today? I had this little book, the Tao, and one of the ancient writings says, a God that can be named is not the God. I don't think God has a name. I don't think it's Jehovah. I don't think it's Jesus. I don't think God has a name. This greenhouse I'm sitting in here, the breath that I'm breathing, that is God. And so anyhow, I've run off my 10 minutes, but anyhow, let me, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard.